Hey everyone, welcome back. So this is going to be lesson 4 of Unit 1, Factor and Trinomials, and this is the opposite of FOIL. So we know how to multiply binomials where we're FOILing. For example, here we've got the bracket x plus 2 and the bracket of x plus 3. So we expand it out by doing x times x, we get x squared, then x times 3, I get plus 3x. Then 2 times x, I got plus 2x. And then 2 times 3, I've got plus 6. Then we can simplify it further by collecting the like terms, so the two like terms in the middle, and adding them together, and we get x squared plus 5x plus 6. So now we're going to go backwards, so we're going to factor it. So we're going to start off with this, and we're going to end up with the brackets now. So the steps are always going to be on the left side here for each example. So first example, we've got x squared plus 7x plus 12. We're going to use this little chart to help us. So with the first one, you need to take the last term. So the last term is this one. And we need to find its factors. So the last term is 12. And the factors, so everything that multiplies to 12. So we've got 1 and 12. We've got 2 and 6. And we've got 3 and 4. Okay, and then we need, so second step is pick the ones that add to the middle term. So the middle term is the 7x. So we're just taking the 7. So we need to find which one adds to 7. Well, 1 plus 12 is 13. That's not it. 2 plus 6 is 8. That's not it. 3 plus 4 is 7. So this is the answer. And then you just write each number in a bracket with x. So we go x plus 3 and x plus 4. You could check your answer by expanding this out, so FOIL, and you'll end up with this. Okay, so the next example is m squared plus 6m minus 55. So we use this chart, and it's going to multiply to that last term, negative 55. We need to make sure we're including that negative in here. So two numbers that will add or that will multiply to be a negative. So it can either be one of the numbers has to be negative while the other number has to be positive. So the first one, 1 times negative 55 is one factor. We also have negative 1 times 55. So just flip in the sign so that the first one's negative, the second one's positive. So we have to make sure that one's negative, one's positive. Then we also, another one is negative 5 and 11. And then lastly, 5 times negative 11 equals negative 55. Okay, so now it needs to add to that middle term. So it's positive 6 it needs to add up to. So 1 plus negative 55 is equal to negative 54. Negative 1 plus 55 is equal to positive 54. Negative 5 plus 11 is equal to positive 6, and then positive 5 plus negative 11 is negative 11, or negative 6. So this is our answer here, as it gives us positive 6. So we just put those right into brackets. Then, to check your answer, you can expand it out, and you should end up with what you have up here. Okay, the next example is x squared minus 11x plus 30. So it needs to multiply to 30. So here, we would think that we would just, because it's positive, we would just do two positive numbers. But if it's positive here, it can either be a positive times a positive, but it could also be a negative times a negative. And since we have a negative here, it's most likely going to be a negative times a negative. So we've got 1 times 30, and then negative 1 times negative 30. We've got 2 times 15. We've got negative 2 times negative 15. We've got 3 times 10. Negative 3 times negative 10. 5 times 6. and negative 5 times negative 6. And it needs to add to 11. Well, the first one here, 1 plus 30 is positive 30. Negative 1 plus negative 30 is negative 31. 2 plus 15 is 17. Negative 2 plus negative 15 is negative 17. 3 plus 10 is 13. Negative 3 plus negative 10 is negative 13. 5 plus 6 is positive 11. Negative 5 plus negative 6 is negative 11. So this one is our answer here, as it adds up to negative 11. And then we just put it into brackets like that. Next one, we've got x squared plus 4x minus 12. So it needs to multiply to negative 12. That means in the pair, one has to be a positive, one has to be a negative. So we've got negative 1 and 12. We've got 1 and negative 12. We've got negative 2 times 6. We've got 2 times negative 6. We've got negative 3 times 4. And we've got 3 times negative 4. And it needs to add to positive 4. Well, negative 1 plus 12, well, that's equals 11. 1 plus negative 12, that equals negative 11. Negative 2 plus 6, well, that equals positive 4. Let's just check the others first. 2 plus negative 6, well, that's negative 4. Negative 3 plus 4 is positive 1. And then 3 plus negative 4 is negative 1. So the only answer here is negative 2 and 6. So we go ahead and we put those in brackets. So the x minus 2, the x plus 6. Okay, the next example is x squared minus 2x minus 24. So it needs to multiply to negative 24. So we've got negative 1 and 24. 1 times negative 24. Negative 2 times 12. 2 times negative 12. Negative 3 times 8. 3 times negative 8. Negative 4 times 6. And 4 times negative 6. It needs to add to negative 2. So negative 1 plus 24 is 23. 1 plus negative 24 is negative 23. Negative 2 plus 12 is positive 10. 2 plus negative 12 is negative 10. Negative 3 plus 8 is 5. 3 plus negative 8 is negative 5. Negative 4 plus 6 is positive 2. 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2. So this is our answer here. We put it right into the brackets. Okay, so this example has a step that you need to first start with. So in the previous lesson, we were doing the finding the greatest common factor. So each one of these can be divided by 2. 2 can be divided by 2, 14 can be divided by 2, and 12 can be divided by 2. So if you ever see a term in front of that first x where it's x squared, we need to try to pull it out of there. So we're going to divide each one by 2 and we're going to pull it out to the front. So then we've got x squared plus 7x plus 6. So now we only need to factor the inside, and we're going to forget about this 2 for a bit. So it needs to multiply 2, 6, and it needs to add to the middle term. So for 6, we've got 1 and 6, and we've got 2 and 3. Because these are both positive, that means that we only have to deal with positive numbers here. When they're both positive, that is the only time you'll only deal with just positive numbers. And it needs to add to 7. Well, 1 plus 6, that equals 7. 2 plus 3, that equals 5. So our answer here is the 1 and 6. So we're going to change just this inside to have the brackets with the 1 and 6. So we leave the 2 out the front, and I've got x plus 1, x plus 6. Okay, in our last example, again, we have a number in front of our squared variable, so we need to pull it out. Each one of these can be divided by 3, so we're going to pull 3 out and put it in the front. So I've got 3 at the front, I've got a squared, 24 divided by 3 is 8, and 36 divided by 3 is 12. So now we're only going to factor the inside here. So it needs to multiply to 12. And because we have a negative here, one of the numbers, because we have a negative here, it means that we're going to be dealing with negative numbers too. So the ways that we can multiply to 12 is it can either be a positive times a positive, or it can be a negative times a negative. So the first one is 1 times 12. Then I have negative 1 times negative 12. Then I have 2 times 6. Then I have negative 2 times negative 6, 3 times 4, and negative 3 times negative 4. And it needs to add to negative 8, that middle term here. So 1 plus 12, that's positive 13. Negative 1 plus negative 12, that's negative 13. 2 plus 6, that's positive 8. Negative 2 plus negative 6, that's negative 8. 3 plus 4, that's 7. And negative 3 plus negative 4, that's negative 7. So our answer here is negative 2 and negative 6. So we're only going to change the inside bracket to include brackets with this. So I've got 3 bracket x minus 2 and bracket x minus 6.